Good afternoon. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. Welcome to today's recap and look ahead. So this morning came in, futures are up like 5-6 handles. I'm like, oh, I have 5 or 6 longs on. I have a spider hedge short. I don't really want to be short. I just wanted to have it on just in case. Some more of the emails went around and people reacted differently than the full sense of security buyback towards the end of the day. But when you do that, you have to act fast. So pre-morning call, we talked about covering. I think the spiders are up 50 cents. I actually wanted to be long because in my head I was thinking we would break this descending trend line, especially considering tech was acting so much better, and that's what we went over on Fast Money. So if you want to look at the Fast Money segment, you could probably see it on our site. So anyway, here's where we are as far as the S&P cash. How many times were we going to hold this 2,400? A lot of guys were very frustrated that we didn't break on the news that Donald Trump Jr. released his emails. Well, why don't you get rid of the frustration and realize or read into the fact that market could have went down yesterday, but there were buyers again. So what do we get today? We got a gap up above a descending trend line. What does that mean? It means that a trend where you could sell into resistance or maybe short into resistance to get paid now might be done. So how do you base the trade moving forward? Okay, if you were long, you could say, hey, I'm going to be long versus this spot. Let's see some digestion above 24.35, and then in some period of time, it could make its way back towards the highs here, and that high pivot is 24.53. But for right now, all you have is this gap. The longer we stay above this gap, it might be a day, it might be 2 days, or who knows, maybe we gap up again tomorrow. That's all you know. But you do know that this pattern of basic digestion, range-bound trading, absorbing this move could be in motion to take out these highs. What are some clues that potentially this is the case? Well, high beta tech. Remember the tech wreck, and everyone was all upset that technology was getting hit approximately 2-3 weeks ago. Well, a lot of those names found stability. The Qs did a double bottom at 135.80. And in my morning note, what I do is I listed the 15 best stocks out there in order of how they held. Some held the 8-day, some the 21-day, some the 50-day, some went down to the 100-day. So when the market rallies, typically the ones that held in best, right? What's that called? Relative strength. Those are the ones that make new all-time highs first. I've tweeted that. I've talked about it. These are my rules. And most technicians and technical traders have to use relative strength to read into the tape because we don't have resources or sales traders or analysts telling us where to look because who knows how correct they are anyway. We have the market telling us. So let's go to the Qs first. The Qs did a double bottom at 135.80. You go across here, okay, this wound up holding. Did you think it was going to hold, moving forward? You didn't have to know. All you had to know is that A, okay, came in, did a little doji, and then B, it crossed this high here to turn on the trade. What type of bounce were we going to have? Who knows? Okay, all you knew is that you had the break of the momentum trend here, a lower high there. So the question was, would it take back the 50-day or not? Instead, it blasted above it. So what do you know? You have a gap up today. So now you could trade the Qs versus 139.96 and maybe starts a new trend back towards the highs. At this point, I guess you could say there's a mini trend line here also besides what we saw. So maybe you get an inside day here in tech tomorrow, or maybe not. But at this point, what happened? It broke above one pivot and then the second pivot. If the bears were going to stay in control, probably wouldn't have let it get too much above this spot. Instead, it penetrated, showing power. And in the meantime, the names that you hear about everywhere were on the move. So what did Red Dog say is the strongest stock out there? Think about it. What was above the 8 and 21-day moving average? I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. BABA. So on my Redler note, that was the first stock that came up on my go-to list for the last 2 weeks, saying this one acted best. So the one that acted best is the one that makes new all-time highs first, right? Look, I just showed you the Qs pulled all the way in below the 50-day. Okay, that's where the 50-day is here on BABA. What did BABA do? It held above not only the 8 and 21-day, I mean the 21-day, the 8-day. And then yesterday, it cleared this 145, and now here you are at all-time highs. That's how you use the tape. That's how you use technicals. If you were long BABA overnight, congratulations. If you've been long it, since we've been talking about it all year, saying we could probably go to 150 plus, that's a different way to do it. So anyway, BABA looks real good. I just want to let you know because I am long. You'll see it on my disclosure. I got long today. Looks like it could be next. It broke above this descending trend line. Here's your next pivot. It's not as known as BABA, but who knows? Maybe this one can continue to go. Look what happened here on the pullback. Held the 50-day, took back the 8 and 21-day here. Day one out, so I feel like I could still get involved without chasing it. Then think about what else was above the 50-day, because Google went below the 50-day, Netflix went below the 50-day. What didn't go below the 50-day? You have a friend in me. Facebook, right? And then where's Facebook now? All-time highs. Why is it all-time highs? How could you have known that? Not because you were friends with Goldman Sachs or you had the analysts whispering in your ear. You saw a nice base here, okay, and then reclaimed this pivot right here. So we got back above the 50-day pretty much in one day. So that was the spot when the bulls took the ball back, and now here you are above a pivot at all-time highs. Actually, I just made a mistake because I've been listing NVIDIA first, Freddie. NVIDIA, that's the chart, okay? That held above the 50-day. Facebook reclaimed it. So let's go to NVIDIA. NVIDIA pulled back, and there it is. There is your 50-day moving average. It held. You could have said, I'm going to give it a little bit more time. What then did it do? It broke this descending trend line here and took back the 8 and 21 days. So you could have waited to get long there. And now here we are, back near all-time highs. So this is showing some strength, some leadership. Looks good. Back above all the moving averages. Here is below. You got to be careful. You got to maybe short rallies. You have to be more in cash or tactical. Here it went sideways, and then the bulls took control back. And now we'll see if it makes highs here. And then Facebook, is the one that made new all-time highs. NVIDIA hasn't yet, but it looks pretty darn close. And then they've been put in the same category, Amazon and Google, when it was the race to 1,000. Well, at this point, Amazon's been acting better because Google had the $2.7 billion EU lawsuit, so they're still talking about that. So to me, this is my FOMO, okay? FOMO, yes, it's fear of missing out. It's not a bad word. It's just an abbreviation if you never heard of it. To me, I think Amazon's going a lot higher, so I don't want to miss the trade when it breaks above 1,015 and gets to 1,025 plus. Look at the chart. I was hoping I would get a better entry, but it didn't happen, so I'm in small. You look here, what did this do? Went below the 50-day, played with it, and then this was the pivot. This was 974, looks very similar to Facebook. Then what did it do? It gapped up and held it. Okay, now all of a sudden, they couldn't sell the news on Prime Day, right? So now if it rallied up and the shorts were saying, hey, they're going to probably sell the news because it rallied into the day, because sometimes you sell events, didn't happen. So now we'll see how long does it go sideways before maybe taking this pivot out and running pre-earnings, because earnings are until, I think, the week of July 26th, so there's a lot of time above the moving average. Obviously, this was your better pivot to buy. Up here is a little bit more difficult. If you did buy it up here, you just have to know in your head it could hang out above this pivot here of 998 for a little bit or not. So if you're in fear of missing out on a move above all-time highs and squeezing, you got to be in some, and you got to be able to take some of the gyrations. Not leaders, but good trades. Yesterday, I tweeted to Redler All Access that I bought back Twitter. Yes, Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. It looked technically good. I also bought the calls for earnings. Sometimes you get lucky, or sometimes you just, put something on because you're kind of moving and grooving, and today it was up 3%. So if you look at Twitter, why did Red Dog buy Twitter? Same reason. Look at this. It cleared the 8 and 21-day moving average. Nice tight pattern here. So what did you get today? Some follow through. So I had more on yesterday than I have today, but I'm still long, and we'll see what happens here into this spot. It could probably take a little rest. If you look at the more longer term pattern, it's looking pretty good. It's coming right back into this resistance area. Okay, we have the 19 calls. We bought them for, I bought them for 80 cents, sold some today at $1.25. It's a nice percentage gain. Who knows? Maybe they actually have a decent earnings report, and there's a huge gap to fill here. So I'll probably stay with some of the options, and I'll trim and trail the stock. Another little guy that we've been trading, I think I've been in it, if you're on my virtual trading floor. You know what the virtual trading floor is? It's a product where you could see what I buy and sell all day long. When I add to positions, take them off, when I put them on, when I take them off. So before I get into the AMD that I've been in, you guys, if you're on the virtual trading floor, you watch me execute the Red Dog reversal. Okay, in what stock? What did Red Dog post on Twitter on Monday morning? Tesla, right? Maybe it's going to 280 like everyone says, or maybe it's going to fight that 306 pivot area, reverse, and give you a nice oversold bounce trade. And that's exactly what Tesla did. So if you were on the VTF, the virtual trading floor that follows my positions, you saw I was not in Tesla on Monday, and then I bought it pretty much right when it cleared this spot. Took it home Monday afternoon, posted another chart saying if it can clear 318, 321, it could fill the gap and maybe see the 21-day, and pretty much that's what happened here. So tonight, for the first time, if you were on the VTF, you see I am not long Tesla overnight. Why? Because that's the oversold bounce. Am I short it because it's at the 8-day? No, I'm going to wait. But that's the beauty of connecting the dots of the products. You can't just get the full picture, on Twitter here and there. So use your resources. Anyway, that was a nice trade with Tesla. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Go back to the AMD trade. I'm still sitting in it. It's kind of slow. You can't be in all the high beta tech names. It probably sees a little resistance into this area, but if it could get up here and pause and continue to hold the 8-day moving average, I'm thinking AMD is going to take out this pivot high area. So I'm going to try and sit in it, not chase it and buy the dips here and there. Today Yellen did speak and she was a bit more dovish. So what happens when the Fed's dovish? You have to know this beforehand. What happens when Fed's dovish? Jeremy, what happens?
They raise interest rates.
No, dovish, they do the opposite. Hawkish, raise interest rates. Dovish, they go against it. And that's why the banks sold off a little bit, because they like higher rates. And that's why gold rallied a little bit. So again, as a technician, you need to know a little bit about everything, a lot about what you do. So if you look here, I would say the banks didn't fall apart. Could have been worse. But what happened here, for the first time in a while, you now have Bank of America below the 8-day moving average. So if you were playing for a bull flag breakout here, I hate to say it, today you had to get out of the way. But if you're very active, you could revisit when. If it comes to the 21-day and holds it, or comes a little bit further down and holds it, or reclaims today's low tomorrow. Okay, and if you look at Goldman Sachs, still no breakouts, definitely frustrating, but it's set up. This is on the watch list, because if it breaks above this spot, people might have a little FOMO. I taught you that term before. For a little bit of catch up, it's above the moving averages. So, some guys could do it two ways. You could be long a little bit versus this spot and then add if it gets in motion. And lastly, I think one of the things that I'm in the fear of missing out on is the bios right now. Why the bios? Not because I'm a biomedical major. Biomedical engineer major, just because I like the chart and I think that there is a room to go. Why is there room to go? Because look at this first move. Wow. Broke out, went as high as 323, pulled back, held the 21-day, and poked its head out a little bit. Didn't have much power, but typically the IBBs like to go when the market's resting. So if tomorrow's an inside day, maybe the bios get a little bit of alpha tomorrow. So I like this chart pattern. You could be long versus 308. And I think if it can get above and stay above this spot, there's really not much back to the all-time high pivot. And if you're looking for the leaders, because sectors need leaders, I would go to Celgene. Very nice looking chart. Bull flag type pattern. Looks like it's ready to break out here. Here is your bottom end. Here is your flag. If it gets above this tomorrow, it could get in motion. Same thing for Amgen. Amgen's looking pretty good also. Hanging out, getting tight. We love tight patterns. Here is your, it's above the 21-day, which is good, and it's tight here, which is good. You could be long verse this spot and then look to add if it clears this with authority. And that's that. That's your recap. Hopefully you're trading them well. You're netting some money. If you're not, don't get frustrated. Just don't try shorting stocks because you sold it too early or you feel like you missed a move, because that'll be a lot more painful than sitting and waiting for your next setup. Have a great night. I'll see you in the morning.